Hi, it's me, Daphne, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm gonna be doing the mid-year freakout tag. Now, it is July 22nd, and I've answered these questions based on all the books that I've read by July 22nd, which is a little past, quite a bit past the middle of the year, but we're gonna roll with it. That way, it gives me more books to pull from for these questions. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. The first question is the best book I read this year, and I have a couple that I wanted to talk about. The first book I'll talk about, because it's the most surprising best book that I read this year, was The City We Became. Obviously, I've talked about this book a lot on this channel. I annotated this a fair bit. I had such a fun time reading it. It is all about New York and the boroughs coming alive and the city coming alive, and just like the style it's written in is just so fun and unique. I think N.K. Jemisin did an amazing job with making the characters feel so distinct, and just like, I don't know, just the whole experience of reading it was just so fun. And having lived in New York for a good chunk of time, it just hit that much harder for me. I know, again, I talk about this a lot, but if you're new here, I filmed a New York City tour video to go along with this reading vlog where I visited a bunch of the sites around New York City where this book takes place. And that video was such a labor of love, but I'm really, really proud of how it turned out. So check it out if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate it. Yeah, loved this. And then another really amazing book that I read this year was Pachinko. These two books I actually read for my IRL book club that I have with my friends that I met in New York City. So it's like I get to read books with great people and read a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I've had this book for years and I just was never ready to pick it up. I think I started it at least one time before, but I recommended this to the group and they were all about it. So it really pushed me to be like, okay, now I'm accountable to somebody. I have to read it. And I'm so glad I did. I gave this 5 stars. I gave that book 5 stars too. This book is about a woman who lives in Korea pre-World War II. Japan has like occupied the country. She falls pregnant by a man she thought she could trust. Turns out she couldn't. She ends up meeting this Korean priest who offers to be her husband to kind of like protect her and her unborn child. And then they move to Japan, and it's like their family saga living in Japan as Koreans. And I learned a lot about the history through this. It's emotional, it's frustrating at times. There's a lot of like prejudice and what it means to like try to get ahead in a country that is so against you and just keeps pushing you down. And you can have generations of people living in a country and being born in a country, but you're just never accepted as a true citizen of that country. You're always just seen as an outsider and a foreigner. Even if like you were born there, your mother was born there, your grandparents were born there, it doesn't matter. So yeah, really, really good. 5 stars, would definitely recommend. It's really hard to describe. A lot happens. It's a family saga. A lot of years pass. And then obviously I'm a romance reader, so my favorite romance book that I read in 2025 so far was Under Lock by Mariana Zapata. This book was so fun. I already want to reread it. I read a good chunk of it while I was away at a friend's bachelorette. And you know a book is good if I'm at a bachelorette party being like, sorry, I need some alone time to read this book. I just need to focus. I'm gonna sit by the pool by myself and read Under Lock because I'm locked in to the story. So this story is about a fairly young woman. She's like in her 20s or whatever. She's having some family drama, I believe, like with her dad or something, and she moves in with her half-brother. He's in like a motorcycle club. He offers to help her get a job, so he introduces her to his motorcycle club brother, who owns a tattoo parlor, and she works there as like a receptionist. And it's her romance with the tattoo artist owner guy. His name is Dex Locke, and it's just so fun. Dude, your car is not that cool. Hush. Mariana Zapata is typically known for really slow burn romances with like fairly low spice, but this one was like spicy, okay, for her. and I was all about it. You know, it definitely still has the tension and you can see the longing, which I just eat up. And the pining, I love some male pining. Obsessed with that in romance books. The fun thing about Mariana Zapata books for me as well is that it's all from one character's perspective, so I'm just sticking with like the heroine the whole time. What's her name? I don't remember. All I know is the man's name. I don't remember. So you're in her perspective the whole time, so she might not be noticing that he's moving from like not really liking her at all to slowly transitioning into this like, I would do anything for her, I would go to jail for her to protect her, like passion, you know, and I just eat that up. I eat it up. Like, she's not stupid, but it's just fun when she's like, oh no, I don't know. And then you're just like the subtle clues, like the subtlety. I eat it up. I want to read it again. It's a long book. I really want my friend Sam to read it because I just love a good contemporary romance. And she's really in our fantasy romance era, and I'm just like, contemporary. Anyway, the next question is the best sequel that I read this year, and I'm gonna give that to Morningstar, which is the third book in the Red Rising series. This book was the best out of the three, in my opinion. I loved the political maneuvering and the surprises that the story had. There's a lot of like action. So this is a story about like a world where a lot of people are suppressed and like taken advantage of, and there's a lot of like space battles, it's sci-fi and all this stuff. But yeah, there was some scenes that really shocked me with like the maneuvering, and I found that really impressive. The next question is a new release that I want to read but haven't yet, and I'm gonna go with my friend's very brand new release called Dear God, Is This It? This is a part of her like Dear God series. I own the first two. Again, this is my friend IRL, so of course I'm going to support her and read her books, and I'm so impressed with her. It's like so hard to write a book, and I feel like she's done an amazing job. So this is the third book in her series. They're very short, little novella-sized books. I'm interested to see how she felt she needed to conclude it all. So, gonna get to that at some point. Need to order it and get it shipped to my house. It literally just like, she just texted me today about it. So, excited. And then the next one I haven't read yet, but I want to get to at some point. I'm really not in a rush because there's a lot of backlist books I want to read by this author, and that is My Friends by Frederick Bachman. I loved his book, Anxious People. That was my introduction to him as an author, and I just think his style is so fun and quirky and just like clever. I don't know. It's just a great experience, and also like emotional, like it emotionally goes there, but also you'll be like laughing and crying at the same time. So interested to see how My Friends, his latest release, is, but like I'm not in a rush because I have at least, I see one book I own by him already that I haven't read yet called My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. So yeah, I want to get to some of his, oh, and I own Beartown also, so I need to read that too. But yeah, I want to get to those before I like buy more of his books, but eventually I do want to read his entire backlist because I just love his style. The next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I'm just like really not good at knowing new releases. Honestly, the fact that like I knew these two other releases is pretty impressive. Plus, I haven't been buying as many books this year. I really, really want to prioritize reading down my physical collection, and to be honest, I haven't been doing that well. Me and KU are pretty tight, so I'm not really caught up on new releases, but I'm never really caught up on new releases. Don't come to me for that, at this point in my life at least. Yikes. The next question is biggest disappointments. And, well, it's disappointment singular, but I'm just going to talk about the lowest rated books that I read. So I had two DNFs, which were Cruel King by Rena Kent and Bound to the Dragon by somebody, I don't remember. Cruel King, I DNF'd because the characters were too young. They were like in high school, and I was just like, no, this is not the vibe that I thought it was gonna be. It's like a bully, steamy romance, I assume. And I read like half of the first chapter, or like 1.5 chapters, and I was just like, I don't want to read this. I don't want to read it. It would be fine if they were in college, for sure, for me at least. I can get over it, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're in high school. yucky. I don't know. Maybe they're in college, but like, I'm pretty sure they were in high school, and I don't like that. And then Bound to the Dragon, I just didn't really vibe with the writing style. I just thought I don't know, it just was very like indie published vibes, which is fine. I love the cover. If I remember correctly, it's like a beautiful black woman and a dragon on it. But yeah, I was just like really struggling with the writing. But I was like, let me try to push through. I want to read POC books. But then I like looked into it, and I'm pretty sure the author is just white, which is fine. You know, I have nothing against like white authors writing diversely. I think that's a positive thing. But I was like, okay, I'm not even supporting a black author, so I don't care that much to finish it. So I DNF'd. Okay, the next book I rated 1 star, and that was Verity by the very well-known Colleen Hoover. I read this for my book club with my college friends. I never would have read it otherwise, and I despised every second of it. It's really hard for me to read unlikable characters. I feel like she's supposed to be unlikable, but then by the end you're like supposed to be kind of rooting for this weird, gross relationship. I didn't like anybody in the book. I will say I was a little spooked at times, but overall I just thought like some of the plot devices for like the twist at the end was not that strong, and there's like this whole debate of like, do you believe the manuscript or not, like in the story. I'm like, if the manuscript is fake, or like a fiction, that's stupid. So I was like on the side, not that, if you believe that, that's totally fine. We had like a discussion about it. But I felt like the manuscript should have been real for what the characters' actions were. But like, it's fun to believe that it was fake, because then you're like, oh wow, they did all this stuff and they were wrong, but they like took it to that level. So like, it was still kind of fun to discuss, but I would have been better off if I never read it, but at least I can say that I did, now I know. Like, it's cool to be in the know, so maybe I won't like be that miserable about not liking it. And then the next 2 I gave 2 stars, the only 2 stars I've given out this year, and it's Mating with the Mantis and Possessive Stepbrother. Possessive Stepbrother, I don't remember a single thing about this book, so there you go, 2 stars, not memorable. And then Mating with the Mantis is very memorable, a very memorable book. I read this because Sam was reading it with a couple of her other online friends for like a live show, and this book was ridiculous. It's just this like science woman who's obsessed with praying mantises, and she like sexually like gets off thinking about them and like touching them and like having them all over her body, and every time she has to like up the ante. It's entertaining in the sense that it's ridiculous, but like it's not good, so I gave it 2 stars. The next question is the biggest surprise of 2025, and I have to say, Fourth Wing was my biggest surprise this year. I did not jump in on all the hype, obviously, when it first came out, because I read it this year, obviously. It came out, what, like 2-3 years ago? I wanted to catch up on the hype of the series when Onyx Storm was coming out this year, like a few months ago. So I picked Fourth Wing up, and I went in with like really, really low expectations. I'm like, I know it's not going to be like the most critical thinking book. I'm just here for a good time. And I had a lot of fun. Okay, just ignore some of the plot holes and like the logic of the world. Just forget all that stuff. And life is just a lot more enjoyable. And I do not do that often, where I just like let stuff go. Usually I'm like quite picky with like plot holes, and if things don't make sense, I get kind of agitated. But for this, I was just like, I'm just gonna let it all go. And I had a great time. I ended up giving this 5 stars. I had so much fun. Next question is favorite new to you author, new to me. And that's kind of going back to this one, is Min-Jin Lee from Pachinko. I really, really thought the writing was very powerful, and like it makes picking up books after this really hard, because I'm like, oh, this writing, the writing is just like not that good by comparison. You know, it makes me feel like a snooty biatch after reading this. So I do want to pick up some of her other books, and I own another one. I own this one, Free Food for Millionaires by Min-Jin Lee, author of Pachinko. I picked this up at like the Goodwill or something. Like we were thrifting and they had like a bookcase, and I bought this for a couple bucks. That makes me really, really excited to get to this one. I don't really know what it's about, but I really enjoyed this author's writing, and it makes me that much more excited to give it a try. And it seems, yep, but there's the Statue of Liberty. It takes place in New York City, and I love books that take place in New York City because I love New York City, even though it's dirty and gross, but like it's part of the charm, I guess. So I have this. Okay, a quick one for the next one. The question is newest fictional crush. And I'm gonna say Dex Lock from Under Lock by Mariana Zapata. Oh God, the things about this man. Let's just say at his tattoo parlor, they also do piercings, and he has a really fun piercing that only a really special someone gets to see. So, yeah, we're gonna go with Dex. And I just love how like protective he is of the main character. I just want to read it again so bad. I might read it again now. I'm just like, I've been in a bit of a slump, and I feel like this will help me. And also because I read it at the bachelorette party, I felt like there was like a lot of like distractions, and I still really was obsessed with it. So I just like can't even imagine how much I would love it if like I was by myself, like truly like just at peace in my home oasis, just enjoying the beautiful love story of this book. Oh gosh. Next question is newest favorite character, and this one was kind of hard for me. Like, who's competing with Dex, really? But I just put down some names. I would have said Darrow from the Red Rising series, but like I've talked about that book enough, and I'll talk about it more later in a second. But I decided to go with Gabby and Sasha from Mariana Zapata's other book, Rhythm Chord and Malinkin, because their chemistry was just fun. It was like a different dynamic for a romance where they were just like goofy friends. Like, there's this one scene where, well, first off, the premise of the story is that Gabby is basically helping her brother and his band on tour, and Sasha is this guy. I think it's like a Eastern European name. It's a boy's name. I actually knew a Sasha in college, this guy. Anyway, he's the singer of a band that's traveling with her brother's band. So it's like two bands traveling together. So she's never met this Sasha guy before. But they form like this really good friendship. And I just remember this one scene where she's playing soccer with the boys, and she's like, I really don't want to play with you guys because I always get hurt because you guys take it too far. And they're like, just play with us. And of course she like has no chill. She's going to give it her all. And she's like giving it as good as she gets it with like kicking them in the shins and stuff. And she gets the ball kicked in her face, right? Like pretty hard. And Sasha's first instinct is to like laugh. And it wasn't in like a bullying way. It was just in a like, that's the type of friendship they had. And like, she just had like a fun, silly time with it too. I don't know. It was just like a very unique character relationship for a romance that I found refreshing. Okay, so like I said, I'll talk about Red Rising series again, because the next question is a book that made you cry, and Morning Star, that third book, also made me cry. The next question is a book that made you cry, and I'm gonna bring up Morning Star again from the Red Rising series because it's a dangerous world. It's a dangerous world. There's a lot of war and battling, and people die, and I bawled my eyes out. I was like on the train, and I got to the start of a scene where something bad was happening, and then the chapter ends. And then I was like, I cannot read this. I was literally on my way to like Easter dinner. I was like, I have to put this down. And then by the time, you know, Easter was done and I got back home and I'm like cuddled up in bed, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to read my book to fall asleep. I open up the next chapter and the horrible scene continues and I'm bawling my eyes out immediately. I'm laying in bed next to my husband, like reading it, you know, and he's like asleep and I'm just like sobbing. So yeah, that made me cry. And then just because I'm tired of talking about the same books, I also have Iron Flame, the second book in the Fourth Wing series. It's definitely not called Fourth Wing series. It's called like some silly word, some made up word, Elysian or something, I don't know. Because they call back another death that happened to a really good character. And it just made me so emotional and I'm crying and I'm just so sad that the character's dead. And I won't tell you who it is if you haven't read it, but like people die because this world is also dangerous. People are dying left and right. And yeah, this made me cry also. The next question is a book that made me happy, and I read this really, really recently. It's called The Answer Is No by Frederick Bachman. It's a short story, and I was literally giggling out loud. I couldn't help myself, just like on the train, giggling, sitting on the couch, giggling, just giggling. And like the title of the book just sounds kind of sad and depressing, but it's about this guy who's like 30 something, like low 30s, who lives alone in his apartment and he doesn't have any friends and he doesn't want to talk to anybody and he doesn't socialize and he loves it that way. He just wants to eat his pad thai and he just wants to play video games and drink his wine. And all these people are like knocking on his door, just like inserting themselves into his life, like getting him involved in this thing that's happening in the apartment complex. And he's just like, no, leave me alone. And it's just funny and how, you know, they pull him out of his comfort zone. And It has that typical like Frederick Bachman, like sweet vibe to it with like some silly characters. So this one made me really happy. All right, our second to last question is the most beautiful book I've acquired this year. And I'm gonna leave it in the box because I'm gonna make a special unboxing video for it. But I have this Fairy Loot box. Guys, it's my first ever Fairy Loot box / purchase / holding a Fairy Loot box in my arms, in my hands. This is heavy. This box is a series that I've read and loved, and I saw they were doing special editions, so I wanted to order it, but I did not have the capability of doing that because it's like very difficult to order these stupid special editions with these like subscription box things. But my lovely friend Sam, who is amazing, has a subscription to Fairy Loot and offered to put an order in for me. And I just sent her a little memo and she set up the order for me. And this took so long to arrive, so long. I literally moved before it showed up. I had to be like, Sam, are you able to change the address? Like, I don't even live at the same place anymore. It took probably like 5 months at least for them to ship this. So very strange, don't love that, but I'm glad I have it. Hopefully they're in good condition in here because I have not opened this box because I want to sit down and film it. But trust me, this is beautiful. Just wait for that video, okay? It's a romance. It's a romance series, okay? I've talked about this series a lot. Not in recent time because I finished that series a while ago, but like this author, I've read a lot of her books. I'll give you a clue. She's Canadian and it has cowboys in it. Can you guess what it is? Leave it in the comments if you can guess what it is. And then the last question is a book you need to read before the end of the year, and Harry Potter 7. Harry Potter 7. Guys, I was doing the Harry Potter binge a series thing because I was like, oh my God, I want to do like this series on my channel where I like binge series because I like reading series close together. And honey, when did I read the first one? I read Harry Potter 1 back in April 2024. It's currently July 2025. Okay, I thought I'd read 1 a month, and then I did not do that. I had a really big gap in between 5 and 6 because 5 I just didn't love, which kind of lined up with how I feel about the movies. I don't like love the 5th movie, but I like knew 6 and 7 were really important to like the whole universe of like what's happening and why with like Voldemort and all that stuff. So excited to finish this. I did start it, but then I left for Japan and I wasn't gonna bring this with me. And then I've been in a slump, so I haven't picked it up again. Plus I need to vlog it and I just don't feel like vlogging right now while I'm still backlisted on a bunch of other videos. So I will finish this very, very soon, but just not yet. And hopefully that like video project I'm doing is like worth it. I know a lot of people don't like talking about Harry Potter with totally understandable reasons. I don't support the opinions of the author. Please don't get that mistaken. But like, I loved Harry Potter as a kid, like watching the movies and stuff, and I really wanted to experience the books as an adult. I'm of the mind that you can like separate art and the artist, but I know not everybody wants to do that, and yeah, to each their own. I hope you don't hate me for that, but I have liked the books. All right, so that is the mid-year freakout tag. I hope you enjoyed spending some time with me. Let me know how your reading has gone so far this year. What are your favorite books for the year so far, and what were some of your biggest disappointments? That's all I have for this video. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate it, and obviously it helps out my channel. And I will catch you in another video. Bye.